Complacency, certainly a word that is not in the New England Patriots vocabulary. Gunning for their third Super Bowl in 4 years. They add Brandon Cooks. They add Stephon Gilmore. It's already a juggernaut. Can anybody beat the Patriots?
You know, it's in the NFL. It's really interesting. You get to the point where, you know, the way it's set up, the draft is, hey, the worst teams are supposed to have earlier draft picks. The best teams have late draft picks. Best teams probably pay more, how much salary. And somehow the Patriots year after year continue to prove all this wrong and get better. They had an awesome offseason. In my opinion, Adrian, they had the best draft of any team in the NFL because they got the most known camaraderies in Brandon Cooks, in Kamani Early, and then they went out and drafted Derek Rivers from Youngstown State, a nice kind of a potential guy who was rumored to be in the second round. They got him in the third. Patriots had an awesome offseason, so they're setting themselves up for another year of success.
Yeah, you know, and you brought up the name of Coney Ealy. I mean, we talked about Cooks and Gilmore. Those are the big names, but even some of the other guys that they were able to snag, Mike Gillislee, you know, another physical kind of hammer to replace LeGarrette Blount. Dwayne Allen, kind of he's a good tight end when he's healthy. Whenever he's healthy, he contributed for the Colts, and that's a backup for Gronk in case he gets hurt again. So they were able to not only make the big moves, but also the under-the-radar splashes as well. And quite frankly, the AFC up top, it's not like the NFC, so I don't see anybody who can beat them in the conference. Who?
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be really difficult. You know, if you were to ask me, who would you rather take to win the Super Bowl, the Patriots or the field? I probably would take the Patriots at this point.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, but when the Patriots were looking at their offseason, the biggest thing they needed to do was really kind of just continue to get depth. I mean, that's really what – there was no major holes on their team. Sure, they lost Logan Ryan to the Tennessee Titans, replaced him with Stephon Gilmore. So they replaced him with a really knowledgeable, little bigger corner. Okay, they lost Martavis Bryant. No, Marcellus Bennett. There you go. You know, the Packers went out and traded for Dwayne Allen. Now, obviously, the thing is Allen better than Bennett? Probably not. I mean, I would probably say, you know, Allen's not necessarily on that same level, but he's not a massive jump that you probably would with a rookie. So what the Patriots did there was great. And then they went out and they drafted Cooks, another one of those shifty slot receivers who can take the top off the defense. So, I mean, the Patriots, they just do what they do. I mean, they're in a great spot, Adrian. It's hard for me to believe they're going to do anything less than 13 wins in the regular season.
Yeah, I got them at 15-1. I don't know who the hell's going to beat them. The only team that I have beating them is Pittsburgh this year, and Pittsburgh really is the only team to me that I think can potentially beat them, but I don't think they're there yet. I mean, we saw in the AFC title game just how far the Patriots are from the rest of the conference. That playoffs, I mean, last year, no one could touch them. And I don't see anybody else touching them this year. I'm trying to find my rankings notebook. I can't find it, but I just wanted to show you guys like just how far New England is ahead from the rest of the field in terms of my rankings. Like it's them and then the rest, and it's not close. It's a joke. I want to move on to Tom Brady because to me, it's crazy to think that he's like 40 and he's still putting up these numbers. And we saw Peyton Manning once he reached 38, 39, how his shoulder really deteriorated. And now we're seeing Brady, and, well, he looks like he can go forever.
It's unbelievable, you know, for what they have going around him. I mean, they do such a great job at making sure Brady has everything around him, from the offensive line to skill positions to a stable of running backs. He's never really had a top 10 running back in the league, but honestly, he's never really needed one because he's been able to, you know, win so much in that quick passing game to get the 3 to 4 yards that, you know, most teams would probably rely on in the run game. But he has so many great slot receivers that he's able to kind of win the quick game stuff, which in turn gets him to short distance and gets the offensive line the quick 1, 2, 3 step balls released. You don't have to block for long terms like you see a lot in the vertical passing game. Brady's just unbelievable, man. I mean, every year we say, oh, this is the year. This is the year Brady's going to slide. Nope. This is the year. Nope. And it's just one of those things. Every single year we know it's coming, and we know, hey, he is getting older, but it's unbelievable to watch him. There's no doubt in my mind he's the greatest quarterback of all time.
Yeah, I guess we could talk about that right now, because I always considered Manning better until like the last couple of years where Brady really made the leap for me, and now he is the greatest of all time, which is crazy to me because I never thought of that way. I always thought Manning was better. And then just recently, Brady just kind of eclipsed him for me, and now he is the greatest of all time. And you think about it right now. We basically brand the NFL like each decade, every decade has a team, right?
Mm-hmm.
The 90s has the Cowboys, 2000s, the Patriots. Well, the Patriots right now, they're about to take up 2 decades because they did it in the 2000s, and now they're about to do it again. I mean, they might win again. Like, that's going to be 6, right? Like, what? He's going to have 6 Super Bowls.
Yeah. And, I mean, it's one of those things, too. He's doing it in the generation of free agency and salary caps, which is something that, we look at all the dynasties of the past. Most of them didn't have to deal with that. So that's a huge thing. And, yes, we know Belichick has always been the rock there. But, Matt Patricia is the only other coach who's really been stable. The offensive coordinator there in New England has kind of shifted in and out. But I think if you're Tom Brady, you're at the point where you can pretty much pick who your boss is. You get to pick who your offensive coordinator is.
Yeah. So you look at last year, 39 years old. He threw 28 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. Overcame a 28-3 deficit in the Super Bowl at 39. How can he go to 45? That's what he says he wants to do. I think in this scheme, like you're thinking there, in this scheme, we'll see. But it's not like he's asked to, throw the ball downfield a lot. A lot of it is put the ball on the proper shoulder, let the receiver go after the catch, and you bring in another guy like Cooks. I mean, Cooks is a perfect complement for all these receivers that they already have. So in terms of what the scheme is, he doesn't really have to get the ball downfield that much. I think he could last a couple more years.
Typically the thing that ages the quickest with quarterbacks is going to be your throw power, and the thing that goes the last is your accuracy. Well, that's what Brady's been making a killing on his entire life, and his mind is still sharp as ever. He's not making interceptions, he's not making dumb throws. Traditional thinking says no, he can't go to 45 because it's the NFL and the physical pounding that the body takes. But the way he beats people with his mind and the way he beats them with his accuracy, it's hard for me not to say it. Obviously, the obvious answer is, hey, you're always one play away from blowing your knee out or blowing your shoulder out or whatever. And sure, that could happen, but it's hard for me to ever bet against Brady.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see. Like the Manning thing happened very abruptly. Like it just ended, and it was done. So we'll see what happens with Brady because he is that age now. He's 39. I'm trying to remember how long did Warren Moon go for? He was like 43, right? When he
was a little older, yeah. Warren was one of the guys
that lasted like in their 40s. Like I know Steve DeBerg was like 44, but that point he was like a backup, so that doesn't really count.
Yeah, and to be fair, Warren did kind of get a late start in his NFL career. Yes, he was playing for a while in the CFL, but obviously is a little different of a game there.
All right, let's move on. I was going to talk about the running backs first. I was going to go in order, but let's talk about the wideouts first. And let's talk about the Cooks acquisition and what he brings to the Patriots. And why do you think he's such a good fit for them, if you think he's a good fit for them? Because I think he's a perfect fit.
Oh, I mean, the thing I like about Cooks is he's really everything that Amendola is and Edelman is, but better.
And black.
I mean, and I think that's the neatest thing about Cooks. I mean, when you look at Cooks, he has the second gear that Julian Edelman and Amendola don't have. I mean, when you watch Edelman specifically and Amendola, really the same type of guy, you watch them run routes, it's so freaking crisp that they create that separation. Ball gets right on them, and then they both have good run after the catch ability. But neither of them have the ability to straight up run by most players in the NFL. Cooks, on the other hand, does. Cooks has that elite stop-start speed, acceleration, and the vertical speed. The vertical speed is something that the other receivers don't have in New England. And really, Brady's never had that except for Randy Moss. So it's easy to say, wow, Cooks is in for a big year. But at least from the fantasy perspective, personally, Adrian, I wouldn't draft really any of these skill position guys for the Patriots with a mindset of, oh, they're going to have a big year. No, they're all going to be fairly similar. Obviously, Cooks and Edelman are going to be pretty similar there. But, I mean, Brady's going to spread the ball around. I mean, it's a lot like what Breeze does down there in New Orleans. He's got a lot of playmakers, spreads it around. Guy who's open gets the ball.
I don't see how anyone's ever going to get him off the field, really. Like, 3rd and 5, he's got so many options. You're going to have Gronk still, too, if he could stay healthy. It's just ridiculous. So, yeah, basically, you nailed it on the head. So, basically, the difference between Edelman and all those guys and Cooks, he's black. So that's all you really need to say. He's black. He's faster. He's blacker. But, all kidding aside, I love this addition for them because of the routes that they run there in New England. Everything's like less than 10, 15 yards, and his ability to run after the catch, his stop and start ability, which you explained. And he can blow the top off the defense, and we'll see if Brady still's got that arm to get it out to him. So,
yeah. The one player who's going to kind of take a dip in this is going to be Julian Edelman. I mean, Edelman led the league last year in targets with over 180 targets. So naturally, he's going to take a dip there. But at least for the greater good for what New England has, if you have the opportunity to go get a top 10 vertical threat in the NFL, you go do it. So it's a great opportunity there for the Patriots.
Let's talk about Gronk now. So he just had his 3rd back surgery last offseason. What can we expect from him? I don't even know what to expect from him.
I think there's a real fear in New England that Gronk might be on decline. And I don't mean like this to sound negative, but I mean, when you have 3 back surgeries and your game is based off of physicality, there's a big concern here with Gronk. So the trade for Allen, I think, is interesting. Obviously, we know the Patriots have always loved to go with 2 tight end sets. But I think there is a bit of a real fear here with Gronk. I think he might be on a bit of a hot seat situation. If he can't stay healthy this year, we might see the Patriots, as we know, they are the first to move on from a player. If Gronk can't stay healthy this year, we could see the Patriots move on from Gronk this offseason.
I'm trying to see how old he is. I mean, because it's crazy how cheap he still is.
Let's take a quick peek here.
Yeah, you're on the internet. I could have just looked somewhere. I'm looking at this magazine. 28?
Yeah.
It's about what?
Let me kind of. Yeah. In 2013, broken arm, went on the IR. And then 13 again, he had back surgery. 13 again, IR again. And then 16, he had back surgery again. So Gronk, again, he's a guy who makes his living off physicality. He's not like Jordan Reed tight end, who's more of the elusive tight end. Yeah. Gronk's a guy that wants to put the shoulder on you and give you a ride for those little DBs trying to tackle him. I would be concerned with Gronk. So if I'm New England, put Allen in there until we're 100% Gronk's body's healthy. If Gronk starts getting tinkered up, pull him, put Allen in, let it go. Because you know what? If Gronk doesn't play, you're still the best team in the NFL. You don't need to force Gronk in there to win games.
Well, here's the great thing for them is his contract. He's set to only make a maximum of $5 million this season, and then set to make $17 million combined in 2018 and 19. And none of this money is guaranteed.
Yep.
So that's the crazy thing there. Like, wow, he's really not making that much money. Now, I'm sure he's killing it in endorsements and all that, but that's.
But from the Patriots, you don't care.
Yeah, we'll see. Wow. Okay. Well, the thing about Gronk, I mean, you talk about the physical style. Like, the other thing that not that people don't know this, but I mean, I think he's the best blocker in the league too as a tight end. So it's not just the pass catching. I'm trying to think of others off the top of my head that are just like fantastic, but he's the one that always pops out. I think he's always great along the goal line blocking. So I mean, that's just me. What do you think? Who's the best blocker in the league?
I'd probably say he's in that top 3 mix. I like Delaney Walker a lot too, and I also like Greg Olsen. All 3 of those guys are really complete guys. Travis Kelce and Jordan Reed are probably the guys in the second second tier, both very good run blockers. But I think Greg Olson's a little better with his footwork. Same thing with Delaney Walker. But both of those guys are obviously older than guys like Kelsey and Reed. So obviously Kelsey and Reed have the opportunity to grow into that. And even when you watch Greg Olson back in his younger days, he was not exactly a great blocker. He grew into
it. He didn't have it younger. Yeah, I'm with you there.
So, those are the guys I would say are probably in that same mix, though, Adrian.
Yeah, and the crazy thing about Walker is he was initially basically a backup tight end behind Vernon Davis as a blocker, and then he went to Tennessee and he became a stud. So pretty crazy there. All right, we'll just quickly touch on the running backs. I mean, the Patriots, they kind of have their own way how they play it. They don't have a bell cow. They rotate a bunch of different guys. So we'll see what they kind of bring this year. We touched a little bit on Gillislee. They're going to have Deion Lewis coming back, so he's pass catcher out of the backfield, barring he can stay healthy. They also have Rex Burkhead. They picked him up in free agency, kind of like a versatile back, kind of like their kind of guy that they like. So they are what they are at running back. It gets them by. It is what it is for them. And actually, I think this unit's actually pretty good, even though, replacing Blunt, all those touchdowns he had last year. Gillislee's really underrated. I thought he had a really good year last year in Buffalo.
Yeah, I mean, he certainly did. I think Gillislee is going to be the vulture, the goal line vulture when it comes to these guys, especially because you look at Lewis and White, they're really kind of the same third down type of backs. And then, Rex Burkhead's a guy who, we saw flashes of, but he was always the third back there in Cincinnati. So, now he's coming to New England where he really could be anything from running back number 1 to running back number 4. So that's going to be a really interesting thing to see with Rex Burkhead.
Now, moving on to the O-line now. So we talked about running back. Didn't need to focus on them too much. The O-line, if there is a weak point on the team, it is this unit. It's interesting how they do things around in Foxborough. So they rotate linemen. And it's interesting how they do this. And they'll do it mid-drive. And this is something that Bill Belichick started last year, I believe. And no other team really does this in the NFL.
Yeah, I mean, New England likes to kind of keep guys fresh. I mean, I would say they, as a unit, offensively and defensively, they probably rotate more than your average team in the NFL. Now, where they don't really rotate a ton is in their tackles. Marcus Cannon was probably the best right tackle in the NFL this year. If not, he's one of the best right tackles in the NFL. And then Nate Soldiers is another top 10 left tackle. He's very, very good. So it's really the interior that we see a lot of that rotation. The big guy is going to be Joe Thonley. He plays a left guard there. He was a guy who kind of had a down year. They did go out and draft Antonio Garcia from Troy. He was a guy who they said, hey, he's probably a tweener between a tackle and a guard. So I'm curious to see if Garcia is going to get reps at left tackle or left guard because he could be someone who could push to be a starter maybe later in the season. But, I mean, the truth is, when you have a single collar back there like Manning or like Brady, these type of guys, they're going to slide and they're going to use the protection so well because they do such a darn good job at pregame preparation that they know how to make sure that our offensive line is at least in the right place, that even if he gets his ass kicked, he's getting his ass kicked in a spot that's not going to hurt me as a quarterback. So, yeah, overall, as an offensive line, very, very good group, though.
Yeah, it's individually, I don't think it's great, but as a group, they play well together, I guess. So you could kind of say it like that. Yeah, the interior of their line is where they're weak, and that's kind of where they rotate. David Andrews there, Tunney, you talked about Shaq Mason as well. Marcus Cannon you could make the argument that he was the most improved player of anybody in the NFL last year. And at the tackle spot, I mean, they were trying to replace Vollmer there, and Cannon did a great job there. So you look at that, and I like the draft pick of Garcia there in the 3rd round. So just add some depth along the O-line. So there's that. Now there's something we forgot to talk about. So I'll talk about it real quick before we move on to the defense. What are they going to do with Jimmy Garoppolo?
Yeah. So this puts New England in a really awkward spot. New England, so for those of you guys who don't know, most NFL teams, they'll have 2 active quarterbacks on their active roster. Usually, you have your starter and your backup kind of thing. So New England, they're going to have to keep 3 active. And, Jacoby Brissett being the 3rd guy out of NC State, he's going to have to be active because he obviously showed a pretty good flash. I don't think any of us would be ready to say, oh my gosh, he's the next guy. Yeah. But if they put him on the practice squad, some team probably will sign him to an active roster and take him from New England, which then would mean New England would have a question mark as their third quarterback, and then they also have a question mark to determine what are we going to do with Garoppolo in a contract year. So that's going to be a really interesting thing to see. So New England's going to have to keep 3 on the roster. They have done it in the past. It's not like something they've never done before, but it's obviously not always something they prefer to do. They like to kind of, hey, we keep an extra offensive lineman kind of thing, or keep an extra receiver or DB, guys who get multiple units on the field, not just one quarterback. So they're going to have to do that this year, keep 3. I don't know what they're going to do with Garoppolo. That's going to be the really, really interesting one. Now, I don't think Brady's going to struggle, especially with all the offensive weapons and everything. But as a pessimist and as someone who likes to root for chaos, I would love to see the opportunity for Jimmy Garoppolo to get some snaps and tear it up and then just really watch New England pull hair and say, ooh, is it time for us to move on from Brady? I don't think they ever would. I know it's not realistic, but I would love to see it happen.
Yeah, the perfect time to trade him was during the draft. I mean, it wasn't a great class. I've said before the draft, I'm like, all right, the best quarterback in this class might be Jimmy Garoppolo if somebody trades for him. But didn't happen. I'm not sure why it didn't happen. If you know, I would have thought somebody might have given him a first-round pick for him. I don't know, but didn't happen. Like a team like Houston, Garoppolo would have been perfect for them.
Yeah.
You know, and they went and traded up for Watson. So what is New England doing? Were they maybe asking too much? Were other teams not willing to trade for Garoppolo? I don't understand that.
Well, I mean, here's the simple answer. 2 years ago, Adrian, if you would have believed me if I told you Sam Bradford would get traded for a number 1 pick? And it happened, right?
Yeah.
So that's really what I think New England's thinking. I think, and again, we're not in the trade room, so we don't know definitively. But my guess is on draft night, New England went in and said, hey, we want a 1 and maybe some other kind of change pick, maybe like a 5 or 4, something like that. And they didn't get it. Mm-hmm. So now they're rolling the dice and seeing if a team gets a quarterback hurt. Maybe a team like, I don't know, San Diego, or excuse me, Los Angeles Chargers, a team who doesn't really have a clear next of kin. Or, you know, maybe you get a team like Arizona, who maybe somehow Carson Palmer goes down early, and they're very much in a win-now situation, and they need a quarterback to come in. Jimmy Garoppolo could be a guy that those type of teams could throw a 1 at. Now, obviously, I'm speculating based on injury, but again, we didn't see the Minnesota Vikings trading a number 1 pick to Philly for Sam Bradford last year, and that still happened.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll see. I mean, that's because it's his last year in his contract. Like the draft was the time to pull the trigger. Yeah. So, you know, we'll see. Rolling the dice because last year it seemed like that was not that it was rare. I mean, we've seen quarterbacks go down before the season, but for it to happen a week before the season the way it did, pretty crazy stuff. So we'll see about it. I mean, if I was Houston, Garoppolo was the guy to get. I think instead of spending all those picks for Watson, now you got to wait for him. So I don't know. We'll see because Houston's ready to win right now with that defense. All right, let's move on to the defense now for New England. And basically, I want to talk about Trey Flowers. Trey Flowers looks like he's a budding type of star on that D-line. I believe he had – what did he have last year? I forget the sack total off the top of my head, but
I think 5 sacks 7 sacks last year.
Okay, there you go. So he's emerging for them.
Yeah, I mean, as we look as a defensive unit, they're dirty. They are really, really good. Yes. So one of the guys people in the NFL don't really, or the average fan doesn't really give enough love to or doesn't know about is Malcolm Brown, their D tackle they drafted at Texas a couple years ago. He's turning into a very nice internal pressure guy. They obviously went out and got early in the trade from the Panthers. He's on a contract year, so let's see what he can do. He did have 5 sacks last year, which is okay. But if you want to get a new contract in New England, you're going to need to raise that. Then, exactly like you said, Adrian, they had Flowers who got 7 sacks last year, so there's a nice little bonus there. So of their 3 down linemen, of 3 of their 4 down linemen, I think it's probably realistic to say they probably could generate 20 sacks between those 3 guys. But the thing, and we saw this in the Super Bowl, in my opinion, the best internal linebacker as far as blitzing is Dante Hightower. I mean, we saw him completely save the Super Bowl. He's really, really good. He's a guy, it's not unrealistic for him to get between 5 and 10 sacks, which is pretty rare for an inside linebacker, but he's very, very good at rushing the passer.
Yeah, they just re-signed him too, and he's a guy that's also kind of like Gronk. He's dealt with injuries, so he's a guy you just kind of hope is on the field when you're playing. And the other thing that the Patriots just do so well, I mean, they take players that nobody wants, and they turn them into stars. And like, not that Jabal Sheard was the worst player in the world, but he was his career was kind of, spiraling a little bit. Then he comes to New England and he kills it for them, and now he's off somewhere else. I believe he's with the Colts now, and he got himself a new contract. So that defense, man, it's always underrated too, each and every season. Matt Patricia always does a great job. Everyone always wants to talk about the offense, but this defense can ball out too. And I mean, you talked about Hightower. He's a great player, and then you move on to that secondary now. I mean, for them to find Malcolm Butler, and now they signed Stephon Gilmore, and now you got a great 1-2 tandem there. So it's like, Jesus Christ, man. So it's not fair. The Patriots are just stacked everywhere.
Yeah, I mean, you look at their DBs. All 4 of their DBs are Pro Bowl potential guys. 3 of the 4 of them have earned Pro Bowl, and Patrick Chung's the one guy who hasn't been a Pro Bowler, but he's every bit as good as anyone who has been in the Pro Bowl. So their DB unit is really, really talented. They still have, and then they went out and got David Harris, from the Jets. So it's like, okay, we'll just go grab him. Yeah, and I think that allows Hightower to be a little more aggressive this season. I think we're going to see his sack total rise because we're going to see, David Harris be a little more of a solid inside backer. Still have Rob Ninkovich, who's obviously a guy starting to be on the downward slope of his career, as anyone is once you surpass 30. But that's why they went out and they got Derek Rivers, because Derek Rivers is a guy who's a very similar type of outside backer, edge rush kind of guy. He's in a great spot, and that's what I love what the Patriots do, man. They don't draft for need now. They draft for a need from 1 to 2 years because they know, hey, Rob Ninkovich is probably not going to be our starting outside backer in 2 years, but maybe Derek Rivers is. So let's give him time to develop. The most interesting thing I have for the defensive unit isn't even a player. It's going to be Pat Patricia. He's going to be a name we're going to see highly named when it comes to head coaching search. We were talking about this on our Jets show. We were saying, hey, what potentially could make a head coach interested in becoming the Jets head coach? Then I said it's going to be someone who wants the opportunity to have his thumbprint on draft, on players, more of a president of football, GM type of role. I could see Matt Patricia going to the Jets and saying, hey, if you want me here, I want my role to be similar to how Bills is in New England. I know what it takes. I know what their interests are. I know how to evaluate players. Pat Patricia is going to be one of those guys we're going to see being named a head coach sooner rather than later.
I'm surprised he hasn't gotten a coaching job yet. Like, that kind of baffles me, actually. Like, the last 2 years, I mean, Doug Peterson got a job before him. Come on.
Yeah. Yeah, that did surprise me a little bit too. I mean, naturally the question is, did he not get a job or did he not get the job he wants? I mean, because, you look at something that happened with Josh McDaniels. Josh McDaniels left, thought it was a good job in Denver, got fired, and then left his way back into becoming an offensive coordinator for the Patriots. He's probably going to get another job here soon. But, Matt Patricia probably saw that as a life lesson and say, hey, I'm going to hold out and I'm going to wait until I can find a good spot where I can stick. Yeah.
And that's so important, man, because a lot of these some of these coaches, they'll run into a job and they'll run into a situation where it's a black hole. You're not going to succeed. Like Cleveland, for instance. Look at how many coaches they've gone through, and even Buffalo in recent years. If you're in a bad situation, you may only get one shot as a head coach.
Yeah.
And if you're in a bad spot and you get fucked over, yeah, that sucks. So I can see where Patricia's head is at in terms of that sense.
Yeah, I mean, there's every couple of years we see a job open up that we're a little surprised at. I would say the most recent one would obviously be the Broncos. Yeah, they do have a bit of a quarterback question mark, but they probably have a top 3, if not the best defense in the NFL. So you get the opportunity to go coach a team like that. You have to take a flyer on it. I mean, there certainly could be some teams. I would say a team like Arizona potentially could be making a head coaching change. If I'm a head coach like a Matt Patricia, yeah, I'm going to jump all over that instead of maybe a place like the Jets or the Bills kind of situations.
Yeah. I do like Arians, though. I like him as a coach, but we'll see if they falter again. And, that's something that they would want to do. Now, I talked earlier about how for some reason these guys, they come into this scheme with the Patriots, but, sometimes they go other places. They don't do shit. And Patrick Chung is a perfect example of this. If you remember a couple years ago, he played for the Eagles.
Mm-hmm.
It was awful.
Mm-hmm.
How do these guys, how do they do this each and every season? They take these think about how many trades they made last year. They traded for Barkevius Mingo. Now he's not with the team anymore. But Kyle Van Noy was another guy. They just keep taking these guys and they mold them. I don't understand how they do it.
The New England is one of those places, and I think, obviously with Bill being a defensive guy and having his footprint on everything, they are very much at everyone needs to be the best in the world at one specific job. And if all 11 of us are best in the world at our one specific job, we'll be the best defense in the world. And that's really a fundamental piece that New England kind of pushes everywhere. Not every team really pushes that. I'll use a perfect example. Baltimore Ravens, they didn't really ask Ed Reed to do one thing. They just said, Ed, go play football and do what you've got to do. Now, Ed Reed is one of the greatest players of all time, so you can do that there. And there are some coaches who kind of allow that to happen, allow a little more player leniency. I think Rex was a guy who kind of had a lot of player leniency with what the players want to do. He said, here's what I'd like you to do, but how you get it done is up to you. Bill is very much, this is what we want, this is what you need to do, this is how you should get it done, and if you don't get it done, we will move on without you. I mean, when Patrick Chung was with the Eagles, it's kind of funny. He went from a 60 tackles and when he was with the Eagles to almost 90 the next season, and it's one of those things where I think we got to kind of give credit to where credit's due. It's probably not always the player. It's also a lot of time the system he's in.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I mean, the reason why he only had 60 tackles in Philly is because he probably missed 30 of them. Mm-hmm. So he would have had 90. They teach you how to tackle, I guess, in Foxborough, huh? So, all right. This is where we'll get to, I guess, hot seat and kind of underrated players and predictions. So, who's on the hot seat in Foxborough? Anybody?
Yeah, I mean, how do you say anyone's in the hot seat when you keep winning Super Bowls? You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, the only one, because that was a great point you made earlier on Garoppolo. Although his contract makes it hard to believe that they would, part ways with him. But, maybe he's a guy. Maybe if he wants to get an extension, maybe he's the guy you have to think about. Yeah, because he can stay healthy.
Yeah, I would probably say on the surface he might be the hot seat candidate here in New England, but that's probably just a health situation. Man, it's a tough one. I would probably say Keanu Early is probably the guy on the hot seat again, kind of someone who's on a contract situation, and they did just bring in Rivers. Now, obviously, if Derek Rivers is able to produce year one, well, then they're probably not going to re-sign Early, kind of thing. So. I would say between Early and Ely. Keep saying his name wrong. I'll show. My bad. Ely or Gronk. Those are probably the guys I would circle as say a bit of a hot seat situation.
Yeah, I'm looking at the depth chart. It's tough. It's tough. I'll say I don't know. I'll just throw out the GM, just because you got to get what are you going to do with Garoppolo? I don't know.
Yeah. No, that's a completely fair situation because. You can't even really say, hey, Garoppolo's on the hot seat because he might not have an opportunity to even perform except for maybe 3 preseason games.
Yeah. I feel like you have to I don't know. What are you going to do with him? Do you sign him to an extension? Are they going to have the money for that? I don't know. I don't think so. What's Brady? I don't know. I'm not going to look into all that right now because we're 48 minutes into the show. We got to do another one. But that's something to watch out for, I think, definitely, for sure, to see how they handle that Garoppolo situation. All right. Do we want to do an underrated player?
Yeah, I think the most underrated player here when we're talking about the Patriots, I'm going to go with Malcolm Brown,
Yeah.
D tackle. Doesn't really get enough respect. I think he's probably the most underrated player for the Patriots.
Okay. I'll go Trey Flowers. I think he's going to emerge even further this season, so he'll be my guy for them. Okay. And prediction. I got 15-1.
I'm going to say they're going to go 13-3, but here's my rationale. I think they're going to lose to the Raiders, and I think they're going to lose to the Steelers straight up. So there's two. And then if they lose two, they're going to be so far ahead of the rest of the division, they're going to start benching guys, and I
Yeah.
think they'll lose one of the last season games. They'll still be the number one seed, but I think you're right, Adrian. Anywhere from 13 wins to heck, I don't think it's a stretch for them to say to run the table and go 16-0 is a stretch. So I would say 13 to 16 wins is really what we're looking at here for the Patriots, barring a major injury.
It's crazy. I had 14-2 last year, and they went 14-2, and that was without Brady for the first 4 games. So,
Yeah.
I'll tell you what. I got the schedule in front of me. Their last 2 games, if they want to get rid of all the players, bench all the players, Buffalo and the Jets. Can you imagine if the Jets are winless heading into Week 17, playing the Patriots and all their backups?
Oh, God. At that point, it'd be curious to see who wants to win more, the Patriots just because they're the Patriots or the Jets because they want to get a win. But I also see the Jets saying, please, God, lose this game now at this point.
All right, that's it for the Patriots show. That's Brendan Albert. I'm Adrian Fetcu. The Ravens are next, and I'm sure Brendan is excited for that. We're out.
Ball so hard.